Hi, friends. Happy Wednesday, winning Wednesday. It's Sonia
Jeannie, hello everyone.
and we are so excited to be back with you guys again. We missed you last week. It was kind of one of those weeks where we had a lot going on, but that's how summer rolls, right?
Mhm.
All
Yes.
right. So we have a really exciting topic here today. We've been talking about a lot about inflammation and how it affects different parts of the body. And so this is kind of an extension of that topic. We're going to be talking about
Mhm.
aging skin and an aging gut. Like, what is the relationship? Because most times people don't think that there is a relationship between what's going on here and what's going on with your number twos, right? So it's a cool topic. So if you guys are here live, let us know that you are here. Drop the state that you're watching from in the comments. We'd love to know where you guys are watching from. And if you are going to catch this on the replay, like most people, drop the word replay in the comments so we can come and say hello to you as well. All right, so Jeannie, let's dig into this. This is really cool. And I know you really specialize in sort of that menopausal area. So, kind of walk us through because both of us speak to women over 40. And so, walk us through a little bit of what's happening with the body during menopause or even leading into
Yeah.
menopause. So, like perimenopause into postmenopause.
Perimenopause, I think a lot of women don't even know they're in perimenopause until they actually get their hormones tested. And I was one of those women. Like I went through many years of perimenopause, and now that I look back at the symptoms, I can recognize them and say, "Oh, that wasn't just normal. That was actually perimenopause." You know? So I'm glad that a lot of this stuff is being talked about now where, we had to kind of figure it out a few years ago, and now it's just becoming more and more normal to talk about it and to educate ourselves about it. Um, so perimenopause, as you know, there's tons of symptoms leading into menopause, and then once you hit menopause, it's pretty much a lot of the same similar symptoms, but definitely impacts our gut because of the hormone changes that occur. And then you add stress because when estrogen levels decrease, we're not as resilient to managing our stress like we used to be, and that's why you see that mood change, like 0 to 10 in an instant. And that drives up our stress levels. Cortisol levels, are increased because of that. And so it's really important, number one. And I know you talked about this in the past, that Dutch test, like whatever type of test you do, get your hormones tested. But the Dutch test sounds like it's really effective in looking at your hormones in detail. So yeah, that is where we can start, I guess, with
Yeah, so the Dutch test is like it's like looking under the hood of a car. And just before we got on this live, I have my car is in the shop for the fourth time in 8 months. So I'm very familiar with looking under the hood. Not personally, but like you get my point.
Mm.
So the Dutch test actually analyzes not only your female hormones or males too. Males can do this as well, but we're speaking about females. It looks at all of your female hormones, not just the like basic test you would get at the doctor's office where they look at your estrogen, your testosterone, your progesterone, but we're talking about like the metabolites of these hormones. So it's very detailed, but it also looks at your stress hormones. So your cortisol, your DHEA, it looks at your melatonin levels. And what most people don't realize is how interconnected all of this is, which is why we say, what does an aging gut and aging skin have in common? And when you're done listening to this live, you'll understand how connected it really is. So if you're having gut problems, you're having skin problems. If you're having skin problems, there's something going on in your gut. But is it your hormones that are causing these problems, or is it that your gut is so out of balance that it's causing hormonal dysfunction, right? So there's all of this, what comes first, the chicken or the egg? And so that's what we're going to really sort of tease apart today so that you understand if you might be in that perimenopausal sort of leading into that menopause. And menopause is one day, right? And then it's postmenopause. So perimenopause can last up to 10 years. And so, as Jeannie said, most people don't even realize they're going through it. But here's the connection between the two. So, when you look at the gut not only is responsible for helping us digest food, and their digestion is a big conversation in itself. And as a dietitian, I've spent years studying digestion. But what happens is years of stress, toxicity in our lives, poor food choices, hormonal fluctuations, poor sleep, you name it, right? You have this giant, as I call it, toxic bucket, and the body can only take so much before that bucket just sort of dumps over. And one of the things that suffers the most, especially during this sort of change of lifetime, is your gut function. That gut lining becomes more what they call permeable. So, meaning that if you've ever heard the term leaky gut, it can come from a million different things, but all that really means is that there are microscopic holes in the intestinal wall that allow food particles and toxins and all these things to kind of leach out into the bloodstream. And what does that cause, Jeannie? This whole thing we've been talking about for weeks now?
Inflammation.
Say it louder.
Inflammation, and you see it on your
Inflammation.
skin,
Yes.
you know?
So now we've got this like inflammation bucket falling over inside the body. And all of a sudden, what happens? I mean, you were talking about it. Show us that picture of you. It's like
Yeah,
mind blowing every time I see it when you were like going through the menopausal change and what happened to your skin. You guys, you got to see this
yeah.
picture because if you look at her now, like her skin is amazing. She looks
Thank you.
10 years younger than what she's about to show you.
Yeah, and
But
I wanna add too, because this is the thing, when I was going through menopause, I was also going through grief. So it's like triple the stress because I lost 2 very important people in my life, my mom and my daughter 10 months apart. And then during that time, I was going through menopause. So you can imagine the extreme stress levels that puts on your body. Like you shut down when you're going through grief. And then you add the menopause hormonal changes, it is nuts. And so this is before. um, Here we go. Hold on one second. Every time
yeah,
you
I
wanna
mean,
try
I
to
don't
find the
even
photos.
recognize you in this picture.
I
Sorry to, like,
I
put you
don't
on the
either.
spot, but, like, look at how inflamed her face is.
It was inflamed, I had acne, I had dark circles under my eyes from not sleeping, you name it, like, look at the puffiness,
Mhm.
um, redness throughout my skin, it was just uneven, everything, like, even my hair, like, I had a recessed, like, hairline. Now look how thick it is.
Mhm.
So, although it's tied back, it's still you could see the hairline. So, yeah, I
That's
can't believe it.
mind-blowing to me, and, so
Yeah.
when you think about this, all of the things that she was going through coupled with menopause caused a huge disturbance in her gut, and sometimes we have gut problems and don't even realize it. So just
Mm,
because you don't have diarrhea or constipation doesn't mean you don't have gut problems. Gut
yeah.
problems because your gut is mission control for your immune system. When your immune system goes offline, whether that's related to stress, toxicity, lack of sleep, there's so many things, poor diet, there's so many
Mhm.
things that can cause that to happen. But when your gut is in disarray, that stuff appeared on her face, right? The
Mhm.
puffiness, the inflammation, the acne. So, hormonal changes can cause problems with your skin.
Yeah.
And then, of course, the gut plays a huge role because the
Mhm.
skin is our largest organ. The gut is mission control for the immune system. So, two
Yeah.
very important organs or systems in the body that are greatly affected by not only menopause, but by inflammation.
Yeah.
And so, all the things that we've been talking about to help you reduce inflammation play a role here. But I'm going to throw in something that most people don't know. So, if you guys like trivia, here's one for you. Did you know that estrogen is the motor for collagen production. So we've talked a lot about collagen.
Mhm.
Well, guess what? If your hormones are declining or going like this in perimenopause, guess
Mhm.
what? So is your collagen production, right? Tell us, you
Yeah.
told me a really interesting statistic. What did you say
Yeah.
about collagen and estrogen?
So 5 years after menopause, we lose 30% of our collagen levels. So our production of collagen. So 30% of that is lost. And we start to see the aging process accelerate post-menopause. So
Mhm.
it's really, really important to work on stress management, but also our gut health. When we're managing our stress, it really helps our gut, but also what you're putting in your mouth and all of those things, your environment. But in addition to that, collagen, taking a good clinical grade collagen, because that's going to help with your gut and it's also going to help with your skin. So it's important to work on the inner before you go out and buy tons of creams and lotions and potions and everything to put on your face, because it starts on the inside.
100%. So
Yeah.
collagen is the motor, or estrogen is
Mm.
the motor for collagen production.
Mhm.
5 years after menopause occurs, and again, menopause is 1 day, right? That
Yeah.
perimenopause is the longest, stint of time, and then you have the 1 day of transition, and then you're
Right.
considered postmenopausal, right? Most people don't
Oh,
understand the stages.
yeah, the
And
1 year from yeah, but I mean, most of us don't realize because it's from your last day or from the last day of your period all the way to you don't have to have it or you don't have a period for a full year.
right,
And it's hard
exactly.
because if you were like for me, I was always irregular, always. So you could never tell if I was gonna go into menopause or not. I actually had to get my levels tested to know. And even with that, the doctor said, the grief could have pushed you into menopause much quicker than you needed to. So, yeah,
Mm,
there you go. So, stress is I believe that stress is probably the number one thing that causes a lot of our health issues.
100%. And stress can be triggered by a lot of things. It can be emotional
Mhm.
stress.
Yep.
And both Jeannie and I have suffered great loss. I lost both of my parents within a year and a half span of one another. And Jeannie obviously lost her mother and her daughter in a close proximity. So grief is a real thing. So, think about grief as a stressor, but grief also is, a toxin to the body. You guys have heard me talk a lot about my journey with mold toxicity, and I'm still going through it. But during that time, let me show you another picture because I think it's, now as I look back at where I was and where I am today, I mean, I'm showing you a picture of 2019 versus 2024. Okay. And it's
Which is
not super easy to
amazing.
see.
I can't believe it.
But in 2019, I was in the heart of this battle of dealing with toxic mold in our attic that I had no idea was even there. But
Mhm.
my face was wrinkled. I had a lot of fine lines. I had a lot of, cystic type hormonal acne. I had really dry skin. But at the same time, I had a ton of gut problems. I had leaky gut. And I'm like, what is going on here? But I didn't understand fully that there was a relationship between what was going on in my gut and how it was manifesting in my skin. And it was all being driven by a toxic environment. And then enter grief into the picture and other stressors, right? So, again, it's about that bucket effect. When that bucket is so full, it spills over into the body and you have higher levels of inflammation. That inflammatory cascade just keeps going, and then you start to see that on the outside with fine lines, wrinkles, dry skin, that glow that you had gone, right?
Mm.
And so, what is the first thing that we as women do? We don't address what's going on internally. We're like, okay, what's that cream that's going to melt my wrinkles away, right?
Yeah.
And I did that too. I started, somebody help me, right? What is the latest and greatest skincare product that's going to fix what's going on with my skin? And while all of them can help, think of topical as temporary. So you really need to address internally what's going on, fix your gut with food, with using pre, pro, and postbiotics. And if you need recommendations for those, we can help you with that. Most important, though, is get on a collagen supplement that also contains hyaluronic acid. And then, depending on what your goals are, there can be some other additives that are really helpful, but those two are fundamental. And please, please, please do not make it a powder or a pill, because powdered collagen is such a large molecular size that the body just doesn't absorb it. So, yes, it's a lot cheaper. You can buy it at Walmart or on Amazon. But the most expensive supplement is the one that you end up wasting money on and flushing it down the drain, and you get no results. That before picture I showed you, I had been using powdered collagen for 5 years. I mean,
Wow.
no results. I made a great protein shake, but that was about it. So it wasn't until I understood fully the relationship between what was going on with environmental toxicity in my life, with grief, with other stressors, with the fact that my gut was in a really bad place. And it wasn't the food I was eating. I eat a very healthy diet. It was all these environmental and emotional factors that were causing gut problems, which were resulting in, skin looking terrible, my hormones, right? Because I'm over 40. So my hormones were like doing this, doing
Mhm.
sea salts, as I say. So then I get this Dutch test done, and I'm like, I'm literally making no hormones.
Right.
So a lot of people have really high cortisol levels, and that's a problem, right?
Mhm.
So that can cause a lot of puffiness and inflammation in the face. But then over time, like that, it's like when you are running a car on fumes, eventually the fumes run out. So now I'm in a state of having flatlined cortisol levels from all of this going on for so many years.
Wow.
But never fear, we're not here to leave you with like dread and despair, and this is like what you're doomed to have happen. We're here to offer you solutions and hope, because clearly Jeannie and I went through two very different things, but both of us today look better and feel better than we did 5 years ago.
Yes.
And that is the power of collagen, a healthy diet, and, of course, the pre, pro, and postbiotics have made a difference.
Mhm.
What else can you tell us about menopausal skin? Because I know that, a lot of women, when they hit that age, again, we notice these sort of visceral things on the outside, but like, is there anything else that's happening hormonally that's causing the skin problems?
Well, I mean, it's the decrease in the estrogen for sure, and I know you mentioned that estrogen is the driver in the production of collagen, so that's a big one there, and you will know like, it's not your normal aging because you'll notice that all of us it's like overnight, your skin changes, like, drastically, and maybe you didn't break out for many many years as an adult and you're back to being having like teenage breakouts again. That was a big one for me, was the breaking out. Generally I'll start to break out if I'm experiencing stress, or if stress is a big one for me, but if I'm sensitive to some ingredient in a product or something, which is why I stick to the same things all the time. But I would say with menopause, even with being using the same products, all of a sudden my skin just seemed to be going downhill. I was starting to get all those signs and symptoms that you see of aging, like the wrinkles and more, like the inflammation. And I knew right away that the it wasn't just menopause. I knew that it was driven by stress. I was just beyond stress. So for me, I felt like it was really important to get a hold of the stress, because that it was just like it had a grip on me, really. And if I could find little ways to kind of release, then I could focus on, okay, I can, do the other things like take my collagen every day, be consistent with it. Because when you're going through stress, the last thing you're thinking about is taking care of yourself. But when you can clear that stuff out, clear out your environment, like Sonia, you cleared out the mold. You start to breathe better, and then you start to think more positively, and you're like, okay, I can do some more stuff for myself. So that's where I would say menopause, you could tell you could see the difference. It's like overnight.
Yeah, for sure. And then, as you implement changes, you start to see visible results, right? So
Mhm.
that where there's a before, there's always an after. And it doesn't always, just because you're getting older, doesn't mean you have to look like or feel like you're getting older. And that's really what we want to share with you. The other thing I will say in this connection between the gut and skin health and aging skin is that so when you think about the loss of collagen in the body, so estrogen, motor for collagen, estrogen's on the decline. Collagen is the most abundant protein in the body. It is the glue that holds us together. We're made of over 16 types of collagen, and there are more and more being studied every day. So if we're losing collagen, we're not just seeing it in our face, we're seeing it a loss of collagen. And Jeannie described her hair was having issues. I was
Mhm.
developing like bald patches on my head,
Mm.
like thinning hair falling out.
Yeah.
And again, the toxins and the grief in my life were driving that hormonal change, which accelerates the aging process, which accelerates collagen loss, and
Mm.
therefore all these visible things we see. But what you don't realize is that collagen is also very therapeutic for the health of your gut lining. If your gut
Mhm.
lining is not healthy and smooth and seamless, it's not just going to dictate whether you have constipation or diarrhea. It's going to dictate how well you absorb nutrients,
Mm.
micronutrients. You need certain building blocks from amino acids, vitamin C, and other nutrients to help continue to manufacture collagen in your body. But if your gut's in an unhealthy place, you're not absorbing those nutrients, and therefore you have more skin problems. So, do you
Wow.
guys see this relationship here? So, in other words, just because you have acne doesn't
Mhm.
mean like you're using bad skincare. Look at what's going on the inside, number one. Number two, what are your hormones doing? Getting them tested. And number three, get on collagen, because if you take no other supplements, this is the one holy grail you absolutely need. And the other thing I didn't mention is the hyaluronic acid. So most people don't understand that hyaluronic acid is not just a topical serum you put on your face. Yes, that can help, but hyaluronic acid is responsible for the hydration in our body internally. So just as collagen declines, so does hyaluronic acid. And so that's why when I look at that picture, and Jeannie, in your picture too, like you have drier skin, right?
Mhm. Yeah.
And inflammation and dry skin often run hand in hand. Well, your gut can become dehydrated as well. So there's really a lot of parallels, because the gut lining is what we refer to as the skin within. So the skin and skin down below, right? So it's very important that you nourish your inside to reflect what's going on the outside. So hyaluronic acid, if you use a collagen supplement, it must contain hyaluronic acid because they work much better together, and you build that hydration back in your skin. As a matter of fact, in the clinical trials that were done with this product, in the first 28 days, and this is not a typo, I was like blown away when I saw this
Yeah.
research. This increases the hyaluronic acid content within the body, which means again, hydration, by
Mhm.
6,000%.
Yep. It's
6,000.
outrageous.
I was like, what?
Yeah.
Here's the other thing
That's
it does.
wild.
Most people, we're giving you all kinds of trivia here today. So hyaluronic acid is one thing, but we also produce an enzyme that's responsible for skin aging called hyaluronidase. Hyaluronidase. Don't ask me to spell
Mhm.
it. But using this product in the clinical trials actually helped to turn down the noise and help to decrease the activation of hyaluronidase. So, what does that
Mm.
mean? It means when you silence that enzyme, you have less skin aging. And I was like, what?
That's great. Yes.
So, as you can see, this is a very complicated puzzle that we wanted to kind of tease apart. and show you the connection between hormonal change,
Mhm.
gut challenges, we'll call them, and skin challenges. Do you see like this triangle? Right? I think it's quite fascinating. So what are we going to do about all this? How do we fix this? Jeannie, what are some of your takeaways? Let's leave them with some actionable items.
When you start seeing skin problems, number one, look at what are the stressors going on in your environment, manage the stressors. That's number one. Look at your environment. If it's not like stress issues causing you emotional distress, then look at the other part of the stressors. It's not just, remember, it's not just emotional, it's also physical. What are the things going on in your environment? Number one. That's the number one thing I would share.
Mm, love that. And then obviously get your hormones looked at.
Mhm.
And you can do a stool test. There are multiple different kinds. GI map is the one I've always done. There's a lot of different versions of it, but it looks at the health of your gut. From, do you have parasites? Do you have infections? Do you have mold or candida overgrowth in your gut? Because if you're inhaling mold, like I was, one of the biggest things that it manifests in is actually colonization in your gut. So you can have like mold colonies in your gut, and that just
Ooh.
wreaks havoc on your gut health. So this is where
Oh,
I'm
wow.
saying like this is really real stuff.
Mhm.
And so get your gut looked at, but a very simple place to start. Make sure you're drinking plenty of water, working on your stressors, whether that's a food trigger and maybe you have some food intolerances that maybe if you step away from those, it decreases the inflammatory load. Deal with your stress through different techniques to manage stress. We've talked a lot about that. And then, of course, do the testing and get yourself on a collagen supplement. This is literally the holy grail. One thing, if I could pick one anti aging supplement for women over 40 and you took nothing else, right here. It's
Right.
that important. So,
Yeah.
if you guys want info on the product or any other products, if you need help with your health goals, go ahead and drop either a comment down below, just say info, or you can reach out to us on Messenger and wherever you're watching from. We're live all over the place. So, wherever you see us, we are available through Messenger. So, feel free to reach out and ask any questions as well, too. So, anything that we forgot, Jeannie, that you wanted to talk about today?
No, I think this was a great topic. I love that we included, the gut health, how it relates to skin. And I think that also people don't realize about the hyaluronic acid. I'm glad that you brought it up because when we think of it, we're thinking of putting it on our skin, not actually ingesting it. So I'm glad you mentioned that.
Absolutely. So always think internal first, and internal hyaluronic acid is more effective than putting it on your face. Yes, putting it on your face is helpful, but that's step two, right? Step one is what goes inside, step two is what goes outside.
Mm.
So we'll leave you guys with that. But if we can help you with your skin goals, with your gut health, any of those things, that's what we're here for. And we will be live next week with another edition of Winning Wednesday. And if there are any topics that you would like to hear us talk about related to overall health and anti-aging, let us know. We're an open book and we want to make sure to bring you the best possible information. And last but not least, if you guys found this helpful, we are live in public places, so you can share this broadcast with people that it might help in your network. So thanks for hanging out with us today again, and we'll see you guys next week. Bye, everyone.
Bye.